Welcome back to the Deeper Podcast. I'm excited that you've joined us today. You know, it is, we're going into the home stretch. Like I've said that before, but we're going into the home stretch. Today, I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about John 9. You know, it's important for us to read the Bible. It's more important for us to understand what we're reading. And in John 9, Jesus encountered a man who had been blind from birth. And his disciples start asking the question, like, who sinned? Was it this man or his parents that sinned that made him blind? And Jesus changes the conversation in verse 3. When he says this came about so that God's works might be displayed in him. So Jesus does something totally unexpected after he says this. He reaches down, he spits on the ground, makes some mud, puts it on the man's eyes, and immediately the man can see once he goes down to the pool of Siloam and washes it off. That's what he tells him. He says, hey, go wash the mud off your eyes. As soon as you wash the mud off your eyes, you'll be able to see. And for the first time in his life, he was able to see. But I want you to see this miracle wasn't just about physical sight. It's about what Jesus does for all of us, that he takes the spiritual blinders off when we come to the truth of who he is. And so I want us to see just a couple of things. The first thing is Jesus sees you even when you think you're overlooked. This man had been blind since birth. He had been labeled, he'd been ignored, people had walked by him, he had been a beggar, they walked by him. I want you to know you're never invisible to God. God always sees you. There are no outcasts, there's no one that God doesn't see. Even if you think, oh, I've been labeled, I'm an outcast in society, God sees you. But I think another thing, it comes out of verse 3, that God can use your pain for his purpose. The disciples are asking, well, who sinned? Who made this man blind? Was it his parents' sin? Was it his sin? And Jesus says, no. This was done so that I could be, he could be an example for what I want to do in my power. And I think it's important that we see that when we go through pain and suffering, it really is so that God can use it for his glory if we'll allow him to do it. Just like this blind man made to see can now be used as a living, walking, breathing testimony of what God is and the power of that he holds. I think another thing is obedience leads to transformation. I want you to notice Jesus could have just said, hey, I'm going to put this mud on your eyes and I'm going to wipe it off and you'll be able to see. He could have said, hey, just open your eyes and see, and he could have seen, but that's not what he did. He made mud, he put it on his eyes, and then he says, go to the pool of Siloam and wash your face, wash your eyes, wash the mud off, and you'll be able to see. This man would still be blind. He would have been blind to his death if he would not have obeyed Jesus. So we've got to obey Jesus' commands and what he wants us to do. Sometimes breakthrough happens when we take a step of faith and we obey what Jesus has told us to do. And then I think the last thing I think about with this blind man is that seeing changes how you live. Imagine this. You've never seen anything in your life. You're an adult. Now all of a sudden you can see for the very first time. How do you think the blind man's life changed in that instant that he could see? Same is true for us. A lot of times we don't realize how blind spiritually we were, how dead we were spiritually. And now Jesus has made us alive. He has allowed us to see, and we should see things differently in our life now because we can see spiritually when at one point we were blind spiritually. And so it should guide everything that we do. It should guide our choices, our relationships, our outlook on life, our attitude. Everything that we do should be guided by the fact that now we can see with spiritual eyes and not just with physical eyes. So as you think about this story in John chapter 9, I want you to just remember that Jesus sees you. Jesus wants to use your pain for his glory and his purposes, that we've got to obey if we want to see transformation. And then we've got to live as if we have spiritual eyes that can see. So go out and do that today. Live for Jesus. Live for the one who made you alive and who made you able to see in a spiritual way.